All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co host Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you live. Yes, that's right. We are live, another live episode to recap the Rams win over the Cardinals 13 to 9. Jake, 13 to 9. You hear that score? It's, not, I don't, it's not how we all expected the game to go, but a win is a win. So I'm not sure how much we care. Um,
Yeah.
you know, we get the win, and then in more exciting news, well, a win is exciting, but even bigger news, I should say, the Rams have clinched a spot in the playoffs and won the NFC West with the Commanders' win last night over the Falcons. Jake, so much going on here. We win Saturday night. We clinched the division Sunday night. I mean, it's been an exciting 24 hours for Rams fans. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I mean, it's hard not to. This is a team that started 1-4, and then, of course, they end up at 10-6, and they have a chance to get to 11-6. And, you and I both had them winning the Super Bowl before the season started. There were some unforeseen things that propped up. I mean, Puka Nacua getting hurt again, and, Cooper Kupp getting hurt, and the offensive line getting decimated, and, not having your secondary really to start the season. So yeah, I mean, I think what they were able to do coming back from 1-4, they go in the bye, below 500, back-to-back seasons. They come out in the playoffs. That's never happened before in the history of the NFL in back-to-back seasons. So really impressive by the Rams. Impressive showing by Sean McVay. Impressive job by Les Snead building this roster. I just think a lot of people kind of, gloss over the fact that this team kind of rebuilt on the fly. That is not easy to do. There are teams that are rebuilding every year. Just look at the New York Jets. Just look at the Browns. Just look at the Titans and the Jaguars. I mean, these teams are going to actually have to sit there and maybe have a full rebuilding type of season upcoming. But the Rams just did it on the fly. And at some point or another, they'll need to find their quarterback of the future. But as of right now, they have a lot to feel good about, except for that offense right now. It's a little lackluster, but the defense, the way they've been playing, what can you say? I mean, right now, I think, we all kind of knew the Cardinals would fall off. They did this in 2021 as well when they got off to a great start. They were dominant that year. And then right around the end of the season, Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach, but they did not take the Cliff Kingsbury out of this team because they fell off the face of the earth down the stretch. And it's a good thing they did. The 49ers were banged up with injuries, although they just weren't a good football team this year, healthy or not. And Seattle has been a fraud. They really have. The Rams have kind of been one of those teams that you could call mid, and they're not winning, maybe the best ways. But all you got to do is get into the dance. They have a lot of talent. They have championship pedigree. They got coaching staff that, has been there, done that. And they have the best quarterback in the NFC, Matthew Stafford. And I just think there are a lot of the pieces there. You just have to get into the damn thing. Once you get in there, you get a home field advantage in the first round. Alexis, we'll get into who they could maybe face. But you got to feel good about where they're at.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to talk about next because I think that's the kind of the biggest thing, in everyone's mind is just getting to the playoffs, right? Then you get there, and then of course your mind goes, all right, who could we play? Who do you want to play? What's the most likely scenario? And obviously, right now, as it looks, it's probably going to be the Packers or the Commanders, but there's a chance we could play, the Lions or the Vikings, depending on how that game goes. So there really is so many options right now, Jake. My personal opinion is that we probably end up playing the Packers or the Commanders. That's what seems to be the most likely scenario. Um, what are your thoughts on this? Because, a lot of the discourse amongst the fandom right now, of course, is everybody saying who they'd rather play. Well, I'd rather play the Commanders because of XYZ, or I'd rather play the Vikings because of XYZ. Is there any validity to the statement that we probably will end up playing the Commanders or the Packers? And do you have an opinion on this, or are you kind of like whoever we play? I think the Rams got it. You share kind of your thoughts, and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, so I actually think the least likely chance of them playing a team is the Packers. And here's why. The Packers quite literally need the Commanders to lose, and they'll beat the Bears. They will. But the Commanders would have to lose to the Cowboys. And I just don't see that because the Commanders have something to play for. And let's be honest here, you don't want to get that 7th seed. They can't afford to sit starters because if they do, you get that 7th seed and you're going to Philly. You're going to open air Philly. Guess what? The Rams aren't an open air stadium. They are, but they're not. They're not in the elements. It's a canopy. You definitely feel it, but it's not like it's going to affect the game type of deal. Ford Field, not going to affect the game, right? US Bank, not going to affect the game. So when you have all of these, places that you could go in the playoffs, the one place you don't want to go is Lincoln Financial because that Eagles stadium is going to be rowdy. That's not an easy place to play. And I could tell you, just being in upstate New York, I'm close enough to Philadelphia. Not close enough to Philadelphia to know in January, late January, that is not going to be a warm spot. That's going to be very cold. So, you're kind of playing for that. And that's why, Alexis, I think Washington's going to give it their all. I don't think they sit their starters. I think they win Week 18 against Dallas. And that would mean that the Packers are automatically going to be the 7th seed. That means they would have a rematch, like the rematch of the Rio matchup in Week 1 that never should have happened. No idea why we did that. But then, you would have the Commanders in the 6th spot. And would that be against the Rams? Well, that depends. Because what a lot of people don't know, and we just kind of assumed, whatever, the Rams could fall to the 4th spot. And to be fair, they went to the Super Bowl at the 2 spot. Saints had the home field advantage, number 1. But back in the day with the 6-team format in 2018, the top 2 teams got buys. Well, now there's only 1 team. The Rams have never had the number 1 seed in Sean McVay's career, and they haven't had to. They went to the Super Bowl at the 2 seed, and they won the Super Bowl as the 4 seed. Okay. And actually, weirdly enough, the 4 seed has a better win-loss record in the postseason than the 3 seed. Now, that has nothing to do with this. But if the Rams lose to the Seahawks, which I am kind of feeling like they're going to, you get Seattle playing for pride, but, these are all professionals. They're going to lay it on the line. And you have the Rams who are probably going to sit a lot of their starters. And if that's the case, I think it'll be potentially a fun, close game. A lot of young guys getting opportunities. Cody Schrader from Mizzou could even, tote the rock in that one. He's been on the 53 all year and hasn't even been activated. But I don't expect him to win that game. And so because of that, that would mean that they would be the 4th spot as long as Tampa beats the Saints. And the Saints are not good, and they won't have Derek Carr. So I would imagine Tampa's going to beat the New Orleans Saints. So now, if that's the case, right, you would have the Rams falling to the 4 seed. If Tampa somehow loses that game, then it doesn't matter what the Rams do because the Falcons can't have enough wins to tie the Rams. So the Falcons would win the division with a win, but they would be the 4 seed regardless. So only Tampa can knock the Rams out of the 3. But here's the deal, Alexis, when it comes to this. If the Rams do have that 4 seed, well, then we're going to watch essentially who they're going to play will be decided on Sunday Night Football. We all know it's going to happen. It's the worst kept secret in the league. The Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions will play on Sunday Night Football, the final game of the year, to decide who wins the division. And the winner will have 15 wins, and they'll have a bye, and they'll be the number 1 seed. And the road to the Super Bowl will go through them. However, the loser will have 14 wins and have to go on the road and play the Rams if they are the 4 seed. Now, Alexis, I think that's going to be the Lions. I think the Rams are going to play the Lions. I do. I think this is what the NFL would want. I think this is how it's going to end up going out. There's no way they're trotting Stafford out this weekend. He needs some time. He's taken some huge hits. I don't see it. But I'm curious what you think. But I think it's going to be the Lions. If it's not, it'll be the Commanders. I think the Vikings do win that game, though. They are so hot right now. They're not anywhere near as banged up. 21 on IR for the Lions. So I'll take the Vikings in Week 18.
So my gut tells me it's going to be the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I've, in the very short amount of time since we've clinched the division, have been feeling. I also think that the Lions are going to win that matchup against the Vikings. So I would say if it's not the Commanders, I think it's probably going to be the Vikings. And, we did play well against the Vikings this season. We matched them on Thursday Night Football. I think it's a favorable matchup for us to play the Minnesota Vikings. I really do. I know that's crazy. I know they're a very talented team, but we were able to kind of have our way with them before, earlier in the season. I think it will happen again. So ideally, I think I'd rather play them or the Commanders. In general, though, I don't want to face anybody. You know what I mean? Like all of these teams, like anybody in any given Sunday in the NFL playoffs.
I'm with you.
All of these teams to me, have earned a playoff spot, and I would like to, give them the respect that they're due. So
Tampa could be a problem. They got the hottest quarterback in the NFL right now. Regardless of what you want to say, he might not be the MVP, but no one's thrown more touchdown passes in the last 2 years than Baker Mayfield. So, I don't know. They got championship pedigree as well. Mike Evans is as consistent as they come. I'm not saying they're a, surefire Super Bowl threat. And obviously the Rams wouldn't play them in the first round if they win the division. But I don't know. I just think part of me is like, don't let Tampa get in the dance. Don't let the Rams get in the dance. They already did. The Falcons, that's the one team I really feel like is beatable. Like if they were to get in, I think the Lions or the Vikings would smack them. So I just based on what I've seen, I love Raheem Morris. I like what they're doing there. It's just a year too early, right? But Washington's interesting, Alexis, because I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards them being the easier one. They got the rookie quarterback. He's never played in the bright lights. That's true. But that's a team that has had the kiss of death, going to the other team. They won on a Hail Mary against the Bears. They got some Oregon their way and, some weird voodoo magic thing. But on top of that, they have championship pedigree. They have Dan Quinn, who, by the way, beat the Rams in the 2017 playoffs with the Atlanta Falcons. But obviously a different team, but still, he's also been in a Super Bowl. So he knows what it takes to get there. He brought over a lot of veterans on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive, as the defensive coordinator from the Cowboys. And we saw the Cowboys did not look like the same team. Biotish came over, Dante Fowler Jr., Dorrance Armstrong Jr., brought in, a veteran in Bobby Wagner, who he had in Seattle when he's the defensive coordinator. Brought over Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin. And, I just feel like these veterans really hooked onto them. At the same time, you watched last night, what was one thing that stood out for you that made Washington look very beatable? Because I'll tell you what it was for me, but I'm curious if you saw something that really stood out to you that made them look very beatable.
So I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the entire game last night. I couldn't.
That's
so
fine.
I don't want to be ignorant. So you tell me.
The offensive line, they had like 8 holding calls. They could not hold, literally, they couldn't hold up their end of the bargain at all. It was bad. And the equalizer there is Jaden Daniels. And he's the exact quarterback that just gives the Rams fits. But
right.
At the same time, you've seen that work against them. Kyler Murray loses his footing, and then you collapse the pocket, and you get a young quarterback who's never been in the big bright lights, and he's making bad decisions. I just feel like the Commanders aren't as simple as the worst team, the easiest team to play against. And they're not just young, because I think a lot of people just look at them, oh, they're the young team. They're the team with veterans, man. They got more veterans than the Rams do. So I would not call them a young team. So it's interesting. Very interesting there. But yeah, what say you? So, we talked, I just mentioned the Commanders. So what are your thoughts on the Commanders, looking at them? What do they bring to the table? Good, bad? What have you just noticed about the team?
I mean, I think they're a really great team on the rise. I mean, listen, I slept on them, obviously, going into the season, right? I think most people did. I didn't think that they were going to be this good. They have a new regime. I mean, literally from top to bottom. I mean, they got a new owner. They bring in, his name is slipping my mind. He used to be the Warriors, Golden State Warriors guy. His name is slipping my mind, right? Don't they, their GM, or I don't remember if he worked directly with the Warriors. What's his name?
Well, I know they got Peters from the 49ers. But are you talking about the owner?
Right. No, I don't remember. Well, no, he's not the owner, but
I mean, yes, Josh Harris is the owner, but
well, they basically brought in a ton of new people to the organization, right?
Magic Johnson.
No, it wasn't him. Also, Magic Johnson only played for the Lakers.
I know. I was saying Magic Johnson was one of those people they brought in, but it's a joke. He was just part of the ownership group is all.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. But anyway, so they basically bring in a whole new squad. They have all this drama that happens, right, over the Commanders organization with the old owner, bringing a new regime. I was like, all right. They get their rookie quarterback. I'm like, I'm not expecting much. They're rebuilding. And then look at what they've done.
Hey.
I mean, they and the chat's saying Bob Myers.
Bob Myers is there. Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the former GM. Okay, I knew I wasn't crazy. He was the former GM of the Golden State Warriors. So he switched sports. They bring in this new regime, and basically it's a testament, just I think, to what the Commanders have built over there. And I mean, they hit a home run with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
obviously,
absolutely.
Has had a very good season, and again, I thought that this was going to be like a true rebuilding struggle year for them, and they proved me wrong. So I think it's been fun to watch. But to kind of answer your question of what I think, I guess, of them in terms of an opponent, yes, I think obviously if you're taking your pick of teams, and you have to make an educated guess on, where are we going to find our strengths? You probably pick the team with the rookie quarterback, the team that isn't maybe on paper supposed to be, one of the better teams. But again, like I said earlier, I don't want to face any of them. I respect every single team in the playoffs. So, I would say they probably would be my pick, but I don't say that lightly. I say that like it's like the less of all the evils out there. I know that was kind of a shit answer, but yeah, my assumption is that if you can shut down Jaden Daniels on the Commanders, then it's going to be an easier path to victory. I think he's the key there.
Yeah, I think with Washington, they have a lot of veteran presence. They have guys that can rush the passer. The offensive line is pitiful, but they have weapons. They have a good run game. I think Jaden Daniels is just such a coin flip because he could absolutely be, he could be a real big problem, or he could end up being a big problem for the Commanders where he tries to do too much. So I think that's definitely something there. Now, in addition to that, you have another team who you've mentioned, the Green Bay Packers. And I feel like with the Green Bay Packers, they're the team that probably, the way that they've played their season so far, the way they play their games, how it always comes down to the wire. They could be down by 17 or 20 and they feverishly come back and they run out of time, but sometimes they get the win. Well, the Rams are one of those teams that would be susceptible to losing to a team like that. They get up on you early on and they're a problem. If they don't get up on you early on, they're still a problem because they don't go away. You have Jordan Love, who is literally the most fearless quarterback in the NFL. The dude will throw anything. That's not necessarily a great thing there, but he's a talented player and he's very mobile and can make plays. You got a bevy of weapons. You got your long lost cousin, Tucker Kraft. You got, I don't know, maybe there's some relation somewhere.
Maybe there is, not that I know of.
Josh Jacobs, who, he can just absolutely wear down a defense. A really good offensive line up front to not only protect, but also deliver the blow up front to, open up some holes in the run game. And, you got guys like Romeo Dobbs, and you got guys like Dontavian Wicks and, Musgrave, who hasn't really been utilized that much because of the injury, but he'll be healthy. So the offense can do some things. Then you have the defense, and you got Cooper, the linebacker, who's really good. We'll see if Jair Alexander's going to play. It feels like every week he's hurt, but he's a huge contributor. Xavier McKinney, he is a ball hawk. So there's a lot there for the Packers. Also, Sean McVay has never beaten Matt LaFleur before. Ever. So that's an interesting one. I think some people look at them like, oh yeah, they didn't look that impressive in some of those games. And I look at them and I say, why are they not better than what they are? And to me, that's when the postseason comes along. And if you get in there, those teams, we've seen it, different sports, right? How many times have you seen in March Madness, a team has been like, oh, they're good, but they're not quite where they should be. And then it just clicks as soon as they get to the postseason. The Packers could be that team, so I'm not discounting them. But what are your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers?
I mean, I feel like they've been a little bit hot and cold. I think Jordan Love is one of those guys, you'll watch him sometimes, and he's like the most accurate quarterback in the league, I feel like. There are times where you watch Jordan Love, and I think one of these games, and this was last season, but this is just an example, it might have been last Thanksgiving that the Packers played, or was the Thanksgiving before? Everything blurs together right now after the holiday season. But it was it was either last year or the year before in Thanksgiving. I just remember watching Jordan Love, and I had never seen a more accurate game from a quarterback. It was so interesting to me because I definitely did not have very high hopes for Jordan Love in the NFL. If I'm being honest, I was wrong about him. And I just remember watching that game and have watched several games since then where he is so good. But then I've seen him play at times where he's just absolutely awful. He's one of those guys that I never know what's going to happen when I watch him play. And I think that the Packers, success and it depends. I don't want to play the Packers when Jordan Love is locked in. I don't.
No.
I want to play the Packers with the version of Jordan Love that I've seen a few times this season. But the problem is you don't know what's going to happen, right? And so I think that's why I'm skeptical and a little bit nervous about playing the Packers in the postseason, because I have that fear that we're going to get that version of Jordan Love that I think is going to be a problem for the Rams. I don't know. And the Packers are also just such a weird offense because it's like I feel like they have like 50 receivers.
It does feel that way.
Doesn't it? Like they have just this
and then
kind
they throw
of
a touchdown to Malik Heath and you're like,
yeah. You're like, why do you have like 65 receivers on your team?
Bo Melton.
And none of them are a wide receiver one, in my opinion. Like
and
some
Watson
people
can't stay healthy. So
right. If he could stay healthy, you'd probably say it's Christian Watson. But like it's just kind of this mix of guys that they're all like not quite
we know who their one is. It's their tight end. Tucker Kraft is probably their best receiver. I do want to point out that since the Bears game, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games, Jordan Love has not thrown an interception. So I feel like that's not really Jordan Love. That's the game plan. Because you go back, he threw an interception every single game, Alexis. every single game of the season. Eagles, Vikings, Rams, Cardinals, Texans, Jaguars, Lions, Bears. Interception every single game. And since he's gone 6 straight games without throwing a pick. So I think they've kind of changed things up on, the way they use him. They've definitely made some adjustments. That makes him more of a problem, though, because if he's going to be careful with the football, well, that is something to keep in mind. I don't want to miss our super chat here. I just noticed it. Man of Paradox, thank you for the 5.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Most starters to sit. McVay pulls rabbit out of a hat for the win. Jimmy G has great game. Ronnie Rivers to run for 100+ and be game hero. Yeah, remember when Ronnie Rivers was getting carries in week 1 and now I forgot he was on the team? Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
Well,
Paradox.
I think if we want to, I feel bad, like we kind of skipped over the game against the Cardinals, but that's not what I think people are wanting to talk about right now. So I'm fine doing it.
We can revisit our
circle back.
favorite moments from that. Yeah. But I think right now people are really questioning, like, first off, who can they play, which we went over, and now who do you want to play, and who was the most likely for them to play. So we talked about the Packers. Right. And we talked about the Commanders. So now we get into the juggernauts, the 2 best teams in the NFC. Arguably, Eagles are up there. But we'll start with the Vikings, who many would say are not favored to win on the road next week against the Lions. The Vikings, the Rams played 30-20 win. Vikings started off, and I remember I was doing a watch party for that game. So I saw the chat while I was live, and I could tell you right now, nobody thought they were winning that game. The way the Vikings came out, you actually forget about it because the Rams took total control in the second half. But the Vikings, at the beginning of that game, had 2 straight touchdown drives. Like, they looked unbelievable. Sam Darnold is just pushing the ball down the field at will, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap. They're not going to win this game if this keeps up. And then they figured things out in the second half and made some really nice adjustments. And Flores, for whatever reason, didn't blitz a lot. But Sam Darnold is coming off a 377 passing yard game against the Packers, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 35 freaking touchdowns on the year for Darnold, 12 interceptions, over 4,000 yards, 106.4 passer rating. Incredible stuff. I can't believe I'm saying this because I thought the Vikings were going to be terrible because I didn't think Sam Darnold was any good, which is sad because I always liked him. But I just kind of was like, yeah, he just isn't that guy. Oh, man, was I wrong. Darnold has been huge. He's had multiple games of multiple touchdowns, at least 3+. He had a 5-touchdown game against the Falcons on December 8th. He's legit. The question is, are the Vikings going to be a problem in a rematch against the Rams? Because in that game, the Rams played them at their strongest, and right away, Christian Darrisaw goes down. And they traded for Cam Robinson, who's now their left tackle, which was a smart trade. But he's not Darrisaw. So what are your thoughts when you watch the Vikings, and it seems like they give up a lot of yards, they give up a lot of points, but they have an offense that can go toe-to-toe with anybody. How do you see this Vikings team just looking at them?
Well, looking at them, I mean, they're obviously a very good team. I'm on the same page. I totally, had low expectations for them. They started off their season, in kind of a weird way, right? You draft J.J. McCarthy in the first round. He gets injured in preseason. He's out. You've got Sam Darnold, who has struggled, right? He is, I don't know if regressed is the right term, but essentially regressed, right? Over the past several seasons, you don't have high expectations. He was a backup in San Francisco, so you kind of feel like bummer, if you're a Vikings fan, right? Going into the season, expectations are low. And look at what they've done. I certainly would have never, expected this, as I don't think anybody else did. So I think they're dangerous. I think Sam Darnold is playing probably the best football of his career at this point. I think, him and Kevin O'Connell are a match made in heaven. I mean, you have one of the best receivers in the league, if not the best, in Justin Jefferson. Um, Aaron Jones has been a good back for them. Jordan Addison, another good receiver that they've got. TJ Hawkinson. So they've got weapons. They've got a quarterback that's playing at a high level. I think any team should be nervous to play Minnesota in the postseason. I mean, the Rams played well against them on Thursday Night Football. We know this. I was at a wedding rehearsal that game, so I didn't get to watch the whole thing live. But I was like watching. People who listen to our show know I was literally at the wedding rehearsal, like watching Amazon Prime on my phone. So yeah, I think that they're a more, like, to me, they're a more dangerous team in the playoffs than the Commanders, in my opinion. So I would prefer, if we're doing this game, to play somebody like the Commanders, even the Packers, before I think I would want to play the Vikings. But then at the same time, it's like, I saw what the Rams were able to do against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. Who's to say they can't, repeat that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if you're judging this Vikings team based on how they've been playing as of late, they are going to be a very dangerous team in the playoffs. So, I think that's a fair assessment. I do think so. I'm seeing in the chat, for everybody listening, there's a live chat right now on YouTube. People are kind of speculating and talking about starters, right? Are the Rams going to play starters this upcoming Sunday against the Seahawks? What's going on? You mentioned the running back situation. This might not be a popular opinion. I know people are saying Ronnie Rivers. I actually think Blake Corum's going to play a lot.
I do too. Definitely.
I think he should. I think he needs the reps.
Yeah.
I think it's a good opportunity for him. Yes, I don't think that a lot of the starters are going to play. I really don't. I don't think that the Rams should risk it with our luck this season, right? You start off the season just riddled with injury. I don't think the Rams are afraid of going from the 3 seed to the 4 seed. And someone in the chat said McVay just said that he's resting guys and said Corum will get a lot of reps this week. So there we go. I'm excited for him. I really want to see a lot of Blake Corum. I think that he's going to have a lot of success against the Seahawks. I'd be curious to see how the offensive line looks, though. Going against this game, is he going to get at least a solid, line to run behind? I hope so.
I hope not. And I don't mean anything against Corum, but offensive line health has just not been there this year. So I'm definitely using the backups.
I'm hoping the backups can play well, for him. And again, the Seahawks don't really have anything to play for. The pride, so
don't underestimate that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I think they're going to come out hard against us on Sunday. But I'm excited for Blake. I think he'll get a lot of reps. Ronnie Rivers as well. I would like to see Cody Schrader too. I don't know that we'll get that deep on the running back depth chart. We might, because here's another thing to keep in mind. You could play Blake for a half, and then play Ronnie and Cody in the second half. Because remember, you want to keep Blake healthy for the playoffs too. So, you obviously know that Kyren is your running back one in the playoffs. He's going to play probably, 85% of the snaps like he has been. And he's going to continue to do that through the playoffs. But if something happens to him, then, you want Blake Corum there. So I think that, Blake Corum should play the first half. I don't know that I play in the second half. I don't think you have to. I think Cody Schrader gets opportunities. I think that would make sense. I'd love to find out where this whole McVay thing is going down. Oh, the McVay show. So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to. Yeah. It doesn't look like anybody. I don't know. Is anybody tweeting this out? I'm not. I've just been watching our chat. I'm not
Yeah.
on the interwebs at the moment. But
Yeah, it's just the McVay show, which unfortunately, it's not like something I could read and then just tell you
right.
guys. It's something I'd have to actually watch, which would be incredibly distracting. Because I'd also have to listen while doing a
Yeah, I couldn't
podcast.
do it.
No, my brain would absolutely lose it. But okay, so think about this. Commanders, we already talked about them. We talked about the Packers. We talked about the Vikings. Maybe not a ton about their defense, but you kind of get the picture. Now, the Lions. This is the team I think most Rams fans want to play. Revenge kind of trumps everything, I think, for a lot of people. And yeah, the Rams could certainly do themselves some help there with the revenge. The Lions are currently down 6-7 against the 49ers. This game does not matter. The Lions are just basically trying to protect their perfect road record, 7-0 on the road. But this game doesn't really matter because it all comes down to Week 18 against the Vikings to win the division.
Well, some of us need Jamison Williams to have a big night for our fantasy championship.
Oh, he scored a touchdown, so.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy about because some of us is me. So I actually need Jamison Williams and George Kittle to have a big night because I'm behind and I need them to.
I gotta address my friend here, Ruiz. For obvious reasons, we can't give you our address live on a live stream.
Right.
I'll hit you up. I'll hit
Jake,
you up. Yeah.
Jake, give him my address. I appreciate it though too. I'm excited. I love candles.
Yeah.
I'm a candle aficionado.
But
by the way,
we have to be careful when you're a person that doesn't have a screen name that puts themselves out there. People just hate you because of your existence. There are people that like you. There are people that hate you. And the last thing I'm gonna do is dox myself or Alexis for that matter. So.
Yeah.
I could give you the PO box, but yeah, it's in the description, or I don't know if it's in this description. It's in the last video I did. I opened fan mail. That was cool.
Send mine to Jake's PO box, then we'll make Jake send it to me.
No, send it to her. I'm not doing that. I'm way too lazy for that.
Yeah, I'll message you. But
yeah.
So yeah, I think we've covered, the options of who we're gonna play. I do think to wrap up, we should talk a little bit about, the game against the Cardinals. And, I understand the concerns, right? We've had really bad offensive performance, the past few games. It's not fun seeing these 13-9, 12 to whatever scores, right? It's concerning from an offensive standpoint because our defense is playing so well. And you want your offense that has Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams. And, you want them to go out there and perform the way that, they should. So let's talk about that because I keep getting asked about that. I mean, we have another game where, the only touchdown we scored against the Cardinals, was a Kyren Williams red zone touchdown, which story of the year, right? I mean, we've just struggled for whatever reason to score. And do you have thoughts on that? Do you have thoughts on what specifically is wrong? Do you think it's all tied to the offensive line? Because I think the offensive line play is not, amazing at times, but they played fine. They didn't give up a sack. So can't blame the offensive line there. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think Stafford is banged up and he's missing throws that he normally hits. Cooper Kupp is not creating separation he normally does, which I think that is the sign of a decline. So he could definitely use a week off. So can Stafford. Demarcus Robinson hasn't caught anything in his last 5 targets in the last 4 games. There's no speed on this offense right now because Tutu Atwell barely plays. Jordan Whittington, as well as Tutu Atwell, by the way, who leads the team in average yards of separation, which that might surprise some people. Jordan Whittington needs to play more. So I don't know if people realize he's in the top 5 in blocking at wide receiver, according to PFF. Only Puka and Chris Conley and a couple others are ahead of him. Whittington should always be on the field. Atwell, I get, okay, maybe, you feel like you have to motion him to get him open, whatever. Maybe he's not on the field every single play, but he should be on the field more. Alexis, the situation is this. It's the Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua show. Tyler Higbee came back, and I feel more excited about Tyler Higbee right now than Cooper Kupp. And that's sad. I don't want to be like that. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, and I know a lot of people really did not like my take that I had on Cooper Kupp. But they have to scheme him open now. And it is obvious he does not move as well as he used to. And so that, when you have to scheme a guy open, well, now you can't try that with Puka Nacua. You can't try that with Tutu Atwell. You got to scheme Kupp open. And Kupp is a great blocker. So he still has a role on this team. But I think right now, the issue is that there's just not enough speed in this offense. If it's not Puka Nacua, no one else is generating explosives because they don't use Atwell and they don't use Whittington. And it's frustrating right now. Demarcus Robinson plays off of the other guys. As much as people don't want to hear that, he does. He's not an amazing receiver. He's solid, but that's the reality. And so we can sit here and blame the offensive line all we want and say, oh, well, it's because Joseph Noteboom played. Yeah, that might have had something to do with them not going deep down the field, on those bombs. But I'm telling you, this has been going on before Noteboom had to play. This offense has been in a rut, and they've had some miscues. It's not just that. The Hunter Long penalties, the illegal formation, I believe that was against the Jets. That wiped off like a 30-yard run by Blake Corum. So a lot of that is happening, Alexis, and it's just there's a lot of stuff going on. But I think the main focus right now is getting these guys healthy as much as they can going into that wild card game. Because I think Stafford will go God mode in the wild card game and in the playoffs as long as he sits this week. I really believe he needs, because people did not really understand. They take him for granted. The guy is an absolute trooper. But if you haven't seen the last 3 weeks, him getting hit directly in the sternum, helmet just dead on to the ribs, I'm telling you, those hits, they add up. And, when you're moving your body, your ribs move too when you're throwing. So I'm sure that's affecting him. I'm sure I saw him land on his shoulder. I think he's banged up, and I think giving him a week is going to help. So that's what I would say there. But I think the offense can fix what's going on because obviously we saw 44 points against the Bills. So it's possible. But they have to be open to making adjustments, and it starts with adding Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington to the actual offensive game plan and not just as decoys and not just as sub-package players. They need to cut away Cooper Kupp's reps. I'm not saying bench him, but they need to cut his reps, and they need to bench Demarcus Robinson, and they need to put guys out there that are going to consistently win. And that's what Whittington and Atwell, I think, can do. So it's that simple. I mean, they're going to get healthy in the offensive line. They're obviously not going to play Havenstein this week. He'll be back to playing right tackle for the wild card game. But it's that simple. And we'll see if they do it. I also don't want to... Sean McVay has been a fantastic head coach, and he's had some good play calls this year. He's had some games I've really enjoyed. The Bills game was an absolute clinic. But since the Bills game, his play calling has been, a lot to be desired. And I do think they've kind of gone away from things that worked in the past, mixing up the pitches and just being really, it just feels like 2020 when Jared Goff would just throw to Cooper Kupp all the time and people would complain about it. That's what it feels like. Stafford is only throwing to Puka Nacua because that's the only guy that's actually coming away and making plays and a guy that he can trust. So, yeah, I guess it's a longer-winded answer than I expected, but that's the offense.
I mean, yeah, I'm on the same page. It just feels like, the lack of separation that these receivers are struggling with. It matters. And there's no explosiveness. And I do agree, I feel like the play calling has gotten very, very stale. I think that, what makes Sean McVay so fun to watch as a coach and kind of his MO is he's, offense on offense, he's just a creative genius, right? That's kind of how he made his name. And it does feel like, he's gotten at times just super predictable. But again, saying that is a little, I don't know if it's entirely fair because, we say all these things about how the offense is struggling, he's trying to work around it. So it's just kind of a cycle. There's multiple problems and they feed off of each other. But, I think going down the line, in a playoff stretch, I mean, more people have to be scoring than Puka and Kyren.
Yeah.
They just do. I mean, you're not, and, we talk about durability and we talk about Matthew Stafford's banged up. And, you look at Kyren Williams has had an insane workload this entire season. He's played 85% of snaps at running back every single game. He is getting, he had games where he was getting like 30 carries. They kind of cut back on that at times. But I mean, he's in there all the time doing pass pro. And everybody's big concern about Kyren going into the season, right, was durability. He answered the durability question.
I've said this so many times. It's so true. People just forgot that they were upset and complaining about him being injury prone.
Right. Yeah. So now he's made it and I knock on, wood, right? I don't want to jinx it. But so everybody was complaining about that. Now, he's made it and he's scored 16 touchdowns for this team, by far more than anybody else. But then you have that question, like, you're going to be playing an extended season, hopefully more than 18 weeks. It's like, keep him healthy, keep Stafford healthy, keep these guys healthy. You have to have more people scoring. Then, you have to have an offense that is more than Matthew Stafford, Kyren Williams, and Puka Nacua. So I'd say that's the concern right now is how do they get other people contributing? How do they take the workload off of Kyren? How do they, give Puka some rest? I think you're right. I think you have to get Tutu Atwell involved more. I think you need to use Jordan Whittington more. You've got to start being creative again with the offense because you're going to get yourself to a point, and maybe you already have, where teams know who your two guys are. They know that Kyren is your weapon and that Puka Nacua is your weapon at receiver. So I would like to see in maybe week 18, maybe against the Seahawks, that's going to be McVay's time to experiment a little bit and see what he wants to do in the playoffs, because I agree with everybody who is concerned about the offense. I don't know that there's necessarily like a right or wrong way to fix it. I just think that there's some obvious concerns. And I want to see Tutu and Jordan Whittington involved more, especially Jordan Whittington. He's done very well when he's utilized, and he's been underutilized, and I think he's been more productive these past few weeks than Demarcus Robinson. And that's no shade to Demarcus. I mean, he's got 7 touchdowns. He's got the second most touchdowns on this team, for the Rams. But, he struggled the past several weeks, and I'd like to see Jordan get some more playing time. So we'll see, and maybe Sunday will be kind of a prove it day, as silly as that sounds, for some of these guys who aren't utilized more, and then maybe they'll be used in the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I think with Kyren, people are really never going to give him his due because he's not. Well, I mean, I've said this so many times. He's not 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds, runs a 4.4, but where would this team be without him? As much as I love
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford and I think he's helped them big time, I don't think this team's in the playoffs without Kyren. Actually, I know they're not.
No,
And
I agree.
I don't know. It is frustrating, that whole, I've talked about it at nauseum on this channel, but just like everybody was so concerned about his injury prone, whatever people were saying, and he doesn't get credit at all for playing every game, but not just playing every game, being that stature, that build and everything that everybody says he's too small to play running back. Let's remind everybody here. Kyren Williams has 316 carries. That's second in the league. I mean, he did that while being 5'9" and 202 pounds. And I don't think he's small. I think he's shorter. But the way people talk about him, you think he's a $170. So, and this isn't just he played every game. He played every game having the second largest workload in the league. That's saying a lot. And he just needed 10 touches to pass, was it Steven Jackson in 2006? I almost said 2016. I got to find it, but I think, let's see here. Yep. Most touches by, it wasn't 2006 though. Most touches by a Rams player since Steven Jackson in 2010.
Yeah.
That's more than Todd Gurley. I mean, and no, he should not see the field week 18. He shouldn't even be on the sidelines. Put him in bubble wrap, like lock him in a freezer where no one can get at him. Like, no.
Yeah,
I'm kidding, but like, do not put him anywhere near the field. I don't want anybody accidentally running into his legs. I don't want him standing near the sideline. Like, no. He is so key and critical. If this team is going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to have to run the ball with Kyren Williams. I think that was the thing that irked me the most, is that in a 13-9 game, he only had, 14, 15 carries? It's just not acceptable. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, particularly in the game against the Cardinals, that right side of the line was not good. With Havenstein out, and I think Kyren, I think they thought that, he would struggle probably. That's probably why they didn't run the ball as much. But yeah, I agree with you about, Kyren. Everyone in the chat is like, I see Jack just asked, should Kyren get an extension after the season?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I think they should pay him.
Here's as Jake said, and people can disagree all they want. Kyren is in my opinion, the biggest reason that the offense is now in the playoffs. The statistics back that up. If you guys want to go, like I said, Kyren has scored 16 touchdowns for the Rams. The next closest person is Demarcus Robinson, who scored 7 touchdowns for the Rams.
That's ridiculous that he has 7 touchdowns.
And then after that, it just drops off. I mean, it just, you want to talk about consistency. That's been the only consistent player that the Rams offer, other than Matthew Stafford, of course. But remember, we started the season 1-4. I mean, Stafford wasn't throwing touchdowns. We were scoring exclusively at one point. I'm pretty sure that Kyren had like 7 touchdowns, and then it was like Cooper Kupp had 1, and that was it. So, again, people don't really like to give Kyren his flowers. I get it. He's not Derrick Henry, and so many people after Todd Gurley really want a running back like that. But I think it's a shame that people don't give credit where credit is due. And I think you're right. I think if the Rams want to make a deep playoff run, you're going to need Kyren to show up. You're going to need to utilize him. And that's why you definitely don't play him against the Seahawks. Like I said, I think if I'm playing, or coaching against the Seahawks, I'm playing Blake Corum in the first half and Ronnie and Cody Schrader in the second. Because I don't want Blake
It's a
Corum getting hurt
preseason
either.
game. That for me, that's what it is. I'm not playing Kello in the secondary. I'm not playing Darius Williams in the secondary. I don't even play Kobe Durant in the secondary. I don't play Kobe Turner. I don't play Byron Young. I don't play Verse. I don't play Fisk. I don't even play Roseboom. I don't play Omar Spates. I'm not playing the safeties. I'm calling guys up off the practice squad. You can't call everyone up, but I am. Schrader is on the 53. He is going to see time. I would like to see him have a lot of time because I want to see what he actually can do. But yeah, I think Garoppolo has won some big time games. I mean, he's an NFL caliber quarterback who's been in this system the whole year. I'm ready to see what this guy can do. That's how I feel. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to see a starter out there if we don't have to. I think it's important to get reps for Corum, yes. I think it's important to, in my opinion, I think it's important to get reps for your backup quarterback because what if you need him in the postseason? And if you want to say, well, we're done if Stafford goes down, well, I believe that would likely be the case. But let's not forget how the Eagles fans thought when Carson Wentz went down and Nick Foles had his run. I mean, you just never know. So that's how I would look at that. As of right now, because we're not doing our preview yet, it's early in the week, and we have no idea who the hell's playing. We just know that, okay, they're going to sit some guys. Mm-hmm. But the way I see it is that I think the Rams are going to lose, and I think they're going to play the Lions in the first round, 4-5. And I'll go as far as to say the Eagles beat the Packers, and then the Bucks take down the Commanders. And you know what that would mean, Alexis? That would mean the Rams would avoid playing outside. In a weird way, the 4 seed might actually be the best because you would avoid playing the Eagles in the divisional round. Interesting, right? So if you win as the 4 seed and Tampa wins as the 3 and the Eagles win as the 2, the Vikings or the Lions, whoever, would play the 4 seed. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Eagles as the 2 seed would play the 3 seed. So, yeah.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, we'll have to obviously see how everything shakes out. But yeah, I'm kind of just like, I'm gonna worry about it right before it happens.
I'm gonna enjoy this week.
Yeah, I mean,
last week in the NFL season.
It is. There's going to be a lot of good games. A lot of teams are, in a spot in week 18 where they have to literally play, for something. I think the Rams are in a pretty good spot. And we'll be starting off, January with a interesting game against the Seahawks. And we'll go from there. But guys, there's 748 of you viewing right now. We appreciate it. Thank you for stopping in to chat with us, to listen to our thoughts. We will be back Friday night to preview this game against the Seahawks when we kind of know more about what's going on, who might specifically be playing. We'll definitely be talking about it. Enjoy your New Year's Eve and New Year. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Have a very safe night. Please make good decisions. Be safe. Have fun. Enjoy your New Year's Day. I will be watching, obviously. Notre Dame play Georgia. Not expecting to start my new year off on a great note in that regard, but I will be watching. If any of you are going to be watching the college football playoffs, you'll be watching alongside me. But guys, we'll be back Friday night. Until then, please follow us on all social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan, and we will be back soon. But as always, until then, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.